everybody, it's Paige Evans. Thank you so much for being here today and watching my newest process video. This is using my brand new collection called Go the Scenic Route, which will start shipping any day now. So I was not sent any 12 by 12 papers when I made this layout, and so I relied on the 6x8 paper pad, and there are 36 sheets, 18 designs, 2 of each of those designs. So you don't get all of the 48 patterns that are included in this collection, but you do get a good assortment, including this page with butterflies. And so I decided to fussy cut all of these butterflies. And since they're on the 6x8 paper pad, they are a little bit smaller than the butterflies you'll find on the 12 by 12 paper. And that's okay. I really wanted to get creating, and so I just spent about an hour fussy cutting all of these butterflies. I grabbed a piece of pink textured 12 by 12 cardstock and I tore off the left and right edges, and then I am heavily distressing those edges with fine-tipped scissors and then using my fingers to crinkle them even more. I want to create a whole bunch of texture and layers and dimension on this layout. So for this first layer, I'm grabbing white acrylic paint and painting stripes in a diamond pattern, so it's thin, skinny at the top, it gets wider in the middle, and then thins out again towards the bottom. So diamond shape of painted white stripes, very messy, very quick. There's no wrong or right way to do it, just painting those stripes. And then I splashed watered down white acrylic paint on top. This creates just some more interest. Then I grabbed my favorite set of watercolors. These are Pastel Dreams by Prima, and I think I picked 4, 5, maybe 6 colors, which I swear every single color in this palette coordinates with my collection. So grabbed those colors. Oh, I did have to mix a couple colors to get a deeper, darker orange. And I also used yellow, a mint blue, the darker pink, and the lighter pink. Not letting it dry in between layers, just splash, splash, splash. Once that dried, I grabbed my tiles stencil and some white modeling paste, and I'm scraping it through pretty randomly across the background, kind of going for a visual triangle, so 1, 2, 3 spots, and then I'll fill in a couple of the gaps with just a little bit. And again, this is just about creating texture. I had my good friend and fellow scrapbooker Missy Whidden in mind when I was creating this. She always says that, you create a hot mess, and then when you cover it up with photos and embellishments, it looks really cool. So all of these different layers and textures you'll be able to see peeking through. I am going to use these glossy sprays by Dina Wakley, and so I have this box that I put my backgrounds and other things in when I'm going to create a mess, like when I'm using spray adhesive. And so I'm using these glossy sprays. I put my page into the box, and then I'm going to town spritzing, and it also creates droplets all around. And yes, it is a hot mess. It looks crazy, but it looks crazy fun, right? So once you see that when I add the photos and stuff on top, I think it looks cool, but to each their own, and I'm okay with that. I had fun making this layout. So now I'm grabbing other papers from the 6x8 paper pad that have these solid colors of tabs across the top, and I'm going to punch scalloped borders from these pattern paper strips. So this is a Fisker's punch. It creates a nice scalloped border, and I'm not punching all the way across, just a little section. And actually, while I was punching this, my punch broke. I've had it for many, many years, and I guess I've just used it one too many times. So note to self to buy a replacement punch, because I use this one all the time. Got my scalloped border strips and going to trim off. There was a little bit of pattern paper still showing above that perforated line, and some places where it didn't punch perfectly or wanted to straighten off the edges. So just using my fine-tipped scissors to clean those up. I printed 2 3x4-inch photos. I have a wide format Canon printer, and I just have large paper, and the quality of the paper really does make a difference with the quality of the photo. So I suggest using good photo paper when you're printing your photos at home. Otherwise, I get them printed at Costco. So 2 photos of Jane from a recent outing to the pools. And I am tucking these scalloped strips underneath the edges, and then I will adhere my photos in place with dimensional foam squares. I find when I've done mixed media on the backgrounds of my layouts, foam squares are one of the only adhesives that will actually stick. Also liquid glue, which I will use as we stick the butterflies down. Then I'm using a little bit of adhesive to attach these scalloped border strips in place. I know I want to add machine stitching, but it's a lot easier to stitch them in place when they're tacked down with some glue. So then I'm bringing in my brother's sewing machine. It's just a cheap sewing machine that I got from Walmart over a decade ago, and it still works like a charm. I only sew on paper, rarely on fabric, and I'm sorry it was very jiggly right there. My husband's not here to help me out, so I had to do it one-handed, which, have you ever tried filming and sewing at the same time? Anyway, I wanted to include it so you could see how it looked from that angle. Scalloped border strips are machine stitched in place, and now for the butterflies. This is where my idea for the layout started, was fussy cutting all of these butterflies. So now that I've built up the background with layer upon layer of textures and colors and patterns, I am finally adding these butterflies. So there's no real rhyme or reason. I'm just kind of scattering them across the page, kind of centered down the middle and sparsely on the edges. And once I like the placement of the butterflies, I will use a little dot of liquid glue to attach them in place just on the back center of the butterflies, because I want the wings to be able to bend up so that they float off the page. It's like real butterflies are taking flight. This liquid adhesive from American Crafts, the brand is called Sticky Thumb, and it dries super quickly. None of the butterflies fell off, so I knew I had them all glued down, and it's time to replace those edges that I tore off with a pattern paper. So again, I don't have 12 by 12 papers. Well, I didn't when I made this layout, so I grabbed this floral paper from the 6 by 8 paper pad. I'm using a piece of gray 12 by 12 cardstock so that I can make sure that my layout is 12 by 12 in the end. So I put those border strips on the edges. I added adhesive to the back of the edges of my layout, and I'm placing it on top. So it'll grab those borders on the edges if you added enough adhesive. I didn't add quite enough, so I'm flipping it over, attaching those in place, and then using some double-sided, just some tape to tape them down, secure them in place. Trimming off any excess, and here we go. We're gonna add some embellishments. So in Go the Scenic Route, there is a 12 by 12 chipboard sticker sheet. There are a few different butterflies, and so I want to create a visual triangle of chipboard butterflies, and this creates another layer of dimension because the chipboard is a lot thicker than the paper butterflies. On each photo, I'm adding a little flower sticker, and the title is Relax from these puffy word stickers, because that's what we're doing at the pool. The final embellishment will be scattering some of these glitter enamel dots and shapes around the layout. These are just little bits of eye candy to add additional interest. The last step, I want to add my journaling, so I'm going to hand draw 3 lines in this open section. There isn't any paint or butterflies or modeling paste or watercolors in this section, so it's a perfect place for journaling. All done. So I want to bring it up closer to the camera so you can see all of the texture and the different layers, and maybe it's still a hot mess, but I think it's pretty, and I love that the colors in the photos match the colors in this Go the Scenic Route collection perfectly, so they just go together hand in hand. All right, finished layout. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are inspired to pick up my new Go the Scenic Route collection. It will be shipping to stores any day now, and I am so excited to see what you make with it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I will see you again soon.